Excellent. Thank you, Jamie, Marco, and Scrum Masters of the Universe. It is exciting to be back here at Scrum Masters of the Universe. Can I move this? Yeah, there we go. Again, it was great. So Jamie and I, we talked about this, and this is a talk, new talk. So you're the first audience to hear it, but these are a lot of things I've been thinking about. And let's check that. All right. So this is welcome to 6 ways you're using ChatGPT wrong and how to fix it. So to kick off, before we get into it, in the chat, it'd be great if everyone could write a quick thing like, how are you using ChatGPT today, generally? Like, what's your number one use case? I know Marco mentioned that he's not using it, which is a perfectly fine thing. So see some stuff in there. He is brainstorming, helping you think. Look for direction coaching. Grammar, I love that. Ooh, research, excellent. Summarize complaints, yeah. Fine-tuning content, lots of good stuff. It's so hopefully today, I see a lot of good things in there, but hopefully today you'll pick up at least 1 or 2 things that you can try later today or on Monday. That's how I usually like to have all my talks. So this is a little bit about me. My name is Fred Deichler. Been here at Scrum Master Universe a couple times. I didn't type into the chat, but I'm from Grants Pass, Oregon, so it's about 10 a.m. for me. It's a small town in Southern Oregon. If we're not connected on LinkedIn or you're not following me, feel free to connect. I've given a lot of talks around the world the past few years. I love it. I've met a lot of amazing people. A lot of amazing people there in this room right here through just getting out there and talking about things I'm passionate about. I'm very involved with the Global Agile Summit. So if you're familiar with the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, I'm also involved with them a lot with the events that they put on. And I work with the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. So if you're looking to improve yourself as a Scrum Master Agile coach, and you're not familiar with the Coaching Growth Wheel, look it up. Talk to me. It's a great tool. So we have a couple people here. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, Andrew from Google Brain, and Kareem from Harvard Business School. A lot of people talk about where AI is taking us, but let's see what kind of the business people have to say. We hear that thing, you've probably seen it on LinkedIn, you've seen it in places like AI is going to take your job. But Jensen and the rest talk about it's not really AI taking your job. It's going to be people who use it effectively that are going to be out there taking your job. So if you're not leveraging it effectively and growing with it, the market for you is shrinking every single day. This even goes for developers as more tools come out, is if developers are avoiding using tools like Cursor or Copilot, Claude Code, any of that kind of stuff, their marketability is shrinking every day because it's becoming expected behavior. So same thing with y'all, with your works as Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, and whatever role you might be. It's important to leverage it and grow with it and know that it is changing on a daily basis. So you have a choice. If you're familiar with Morpheus, you take 1 pill and continue using ChatGPT and AI in whatever way you're using it. Or you can choose to take the other pill and follow the rabbit hole to see how far it'll take you. This talk is broken down into 3 sections for the 6 ways, and they build off of each other. The first one we're going to talk about is foundational problems. These are things like you probably heard, which is when your prompts are too vague, or even if you're just using 1 tool, you're building on a shaky ground. So we're going to talk here in this part about being too vague and only using 1 tool. AI, getting data out of AI, getting metrics out of context was extremely hard for me to actually discover and actually use the AI tool. I use Perplexity to actually help me do research to find some information, because people can say like, oh, you're gonna get better results by adding more context. But yeah, show me the data. So two separate studies, one Ragged AI and context-aware scaling, they found a 70, 90 to 90% accuracy leap with detailed context. If you think about what AI models like ChatGPT are, they are assuming and guessing the next word when they're giving you answers. But if you start from no context, they're using their entire library of information, except if you're logged in, maybe it knows about you. It's using that to try to figure out, okay, what is this person trying to get to? By adding some detailed context in how maybe you want to shape the output, you can improve your results, like it says here, by 70 to 90%. 85% of quality in AI responses comes from adding the right context. Additionally, this was great, 30 to 40% fewer errors when examples are included, which means if you add in how you want the output to look, or maybe an example of what you want, it's going to give you closer to what you need. Remember, these are generated assumptive models. And also, the teams were dramatically more accurate with context. Context is king. You've probably heard that in many places, but this is absolutely true. What we're going to talk about here is one framework for you to look at adding more context to your prompts. There's many of them out there. So the promise here is adding more context is going to make those results click better with you. And the pitfall, if you don't do this, is you're going to vague ask is going to get you a vague answer. One that I like to use is as an acronym called RACE, which stands for Role, Action, Context, and Execute. This here says, you're an experienced Agile coach. That's the role you're giving your AI model. I know I said ChatGPT, but this goes for any AI model. Action, create a retrospective for a team that has recently missed their sprint goal. That's what they're trying, what the output you're looking for from this interaction is. You can give that context, which is huge because this is what you know from your own personal observations. Team met their sprint goal the prior 3 sprints and is nearing the delivery of a key project. And the team has been bored with start, stop, continue. I'd be bored with that one too. And they're execute. Tell what you're looking for. We use Miro. Suggest a layout, agenda, images, and a relevant icebreaker to get the team talking. I did a test yesterday where I just asked it give me a retrospective format. It gave me a great generic retrospective format when I use no context. But by using this, it gave me specific things in a theme that I could use to actually create a retrospective that was valid for this team. Now, race is not the only way to do it. There's a variety of other acronyms, and then the value of acronyms is that it helps you quickly remember and recall it instead of having to remember like a bunch of random words that you're trying to put together. Other ones in the acronym stack will say RTF. Doesn't stand for read the something. Clear and create. And each of these, as you increase the amount of context to a degree, will get you closer and closer to what you're looking for. So let's take a look at RTF. RTF stands for request, task, follow. What this is about is being clear, like this is what the request is, here's your ask, and then you do the follow-up. That first response you get from an AI model is not necessarily going to be your last response. It's thing like we like saying software delivery. Your next release is not your last release. It is very important that you work back and forth with these tools. We already talked about race. The next one's clear, context, language, explicitness, action, refinement again. This is about how you're even becoming. The explicitness is what the differentiator between race and clear are. And so what that is giving that detailed output of what you're looking for. You can even ask for things like structured JSON. So you're always getting that most matched model or most matched output. And then we have create, context, role, examples, audience, task, expectations. It takes a little bit more effort to put in, but you're going to get closer to that result that you're looking for. I just want to say you can write all these things down, but I want to let you know near the end, I'm going to give you a QR code to download this presentation along with some activities that are going to show up a little bit later in exchange for some feedback. One thing about context, people think about context just like how I showed, which is how you start the prompt. The other thing to think about context is how much knowledge or how much information is currently in your context window. If you do use ChatGPT, like you could see here, this talk was actually one of the first ones I used. It was called Projects with. This gave me the opportunity to upload throughout the time I was working with it, the latest version of this presentation and any other documents that were important. For each of these sections, each of these 6 ways people were using it wrong, I started a new conversation within this project. So it had the context of what's going on. The benefit to this was I didn't lose things along the way. There was actually a point a couple weeks ago, I lost the conversation I was having about this talk, and I was freaking out. I did find out the problem was I had ChatGPT open on 2 computers, and I created 2 different paths of conversation. So I had to go back up and find where I would go back to my other path. A really cool thing, if you saw today, ChatGPT and OpenAI announced they're actually introduced forked conversations into their workflow. So you can actually take from a single, let's say, a response from ChatGPT, and you can actually fork off 2 different thought paths. I haven't used it yet because it was just announced this morning. But by using projects, which are now available to free users on ChatGPT, it's a great thing you do to also increase the context. Wait, not increase context. Decrease what you're asking ChatGPT to keep in its memory because you're being very focused with your asks. The next part, so that was your context. So I see some questions there. I'm going to ask Marco to ask me to bring them up a little bit later, unless it's breaking. I don't need breaking ones. The next thing I want to talk about is this. So your first one was context. Second, assemble the right tools. Avoid using just one tool. Use tools. We talked about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great at building structure. Claude is another great tool for deep analysis. DeepSeek, the free model, the absolutely free model, because it's a great coding partner. Perplexity, if you haven't used Perplexity, it's great for researching things. I did research on this presentation with Perplexity, where it actually presents information that is cited, and it's almost like your own white papers when you're asking, and you can ask follow-up for it to dive in. And the beautiful thing I love about Perplexity, I have not gotten a single hallucinated source. I go in there, I said, hey, help me build out this. I need research on, there's another talk I do around coaching with triggers and hooks. I ask it for research on different coaching methodologies, and it was able to pull up resources and give me things to research, along with having a great white paper output. Things you might not be familiar with, the tools like 11 Labs, which has been instrumental in doing voice over audio. Before ChatGPT and others had this capability. And one I absolutely love for being a Scrum Master, if you're not familiar with it, I would get familiar, napkin.ai. It can generate some amazing visuals like this one here on the right, which is the match tools to tasks and the words around it. I fed a prompt into napkin.ai. I said, hey, I want to build something that talks about all these tools. I'm kind of thinking maybe like either a pyramid or circles. And it had the right one I was looking for, and you can change it. So if you're not using napkin.ai for prompting to create stunning visuals for presentations, for Confluence pages, etc., I would absolutely use it. So the thing to keep in mind about using the right tools is you want to pair the tool to the task. If you're doing research, talk to Perplexity. If you're building a diagram, talk to Napkin. If you're looking for voice, 11. And you can run head-to-head comparisons. Ask the same prompt to multiple different engines. I see that one about best tailoring your resume. I don't know if that one exists because I've tried many of them. Joe quickly asked on Napkin. I have a free account and I haven't run out, but I don't use it nonstop every day, but whenever I want to build something, I go there and helps to build stuff. It's just like Jamie says. You can stack tools together. This is what I love doing. It's like you take the output of one, let's say ChatGPT, and you want it to sound a little more human. Put it into Claude. Say, hey, make this sound more like a human wrote this, because ChatGPT can be a little mechanical in its output. Claude is better trained at conversation. I think it has some. What is it? Someone can remind me. There's a methodology behind how it produces its output. I had it written down, but I wasn't. And then the other thing I'll say, like it says here on the tactics, always have a plan B. These are tools on the internet. They will go down. Do not let a tool being down stop you from working. Be familiar with multiple things. Claude, DeepSeek, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini. It's not even on there. I use Gemini in this too because Gemini's made some major updates recently. So the pitfall you want to avoid is the one-size-fits-all trap. These tools are specialized. Use them for their specializations. I ran a test. I found this test online that I think Wired had done, and I extended it to see like what is best for different things. In math and logic, there's a question. A farmer has 17 sheep, and all but 9 have run away. How many are left? Explain your reasoning step by step. I mean, this might be something you ask an elementary school kid. You're like, well, let's see, 17 minus 9 is 8. No, it's actually 9 because 9 are, 9, all but 9 ran away. How many are left? Yes, 9 are still there. It gets me. In this one, Claude and Perplexity were the best at this because they had clear step-by-step reasoning. Creative writing, that's another test. Write a short 150-word story about a detective who can only solve crimes in their dreams. Make it funny and a twist at the end. ChatGPT excelled at this one. It had the most polished and engaging output. Dual explanations. Summarize the matrix like explained to a 10-year-old or writing a college philosophy essay. Claude, kick this one. Travel planning, ChatGPT, meal planning, Perplexity. As you can see, all of these tools have different things that they excel at. And you're going to find through your own use what ones you trust to do the right kind of actions. If we take a look at the overall results of this mini seven prompt test, Perplexity came out on top twice. Claude and ChatGPT 3 times. And so what it means is they are equally good pretty much at different things. So start experimenting with them. Here's a list I found of the, these top 50 Gen AI web products. It gets updated monthly. For this talk, I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I use 8 different ones to help me, including Cursor, which you'll see a little bit later. There are some spicy ones on here, I'll say, for whatever people want to do, but know that there's so many tools out there. I bet if you follow some people on LinkedIn or on Blue Sky, you'll see these kind of things. As soon as you start searching for more AI tools on your phone, on Google, etc., you're going to get results all the time. But there's lots out there. Go ahead and experiment. So that was the first section, your foundation. Next, we have validation. Now, this is where you fall into challenges where you're automatically just doing whatever it says. Just say, okay, I asked ChatGPT a question or Claude, and I copy the results out. I send it as my own. Thing to keep in mind is your name is on that instant message. Your name is on that email, etc. It doesn't say ChatGPT sent the email. It doesn't say Claude sent the email. Your name. So if it's incorrect, that's really on you. So in this section, we're going to talk about rubber stamping and using touch-ups only, which I think I saw a couple people just using for general rewriting. So the first part of rubber stamping, you want to be skeptical and validate. You want to catch errors before they catch you. And don't fall into the copy, paste, go pitfall. I'll tell you a little story about me. This was when ChatGPT first came out. I was working in an organization leading their Agile practice, and I got asked about creating a story slicing workshop. I didn't have the time to do it. ChatGPT was a new cool tool. I asked it to help me write a workshop. It wrote an outline. It looked great. I copied that thing out. I sent it over to the head of the UX department. He said, Fred, this is awesome. None of these links work. And so I go look at him like, oh, crap. It hallucinated every single link in this thing. And this was a couple years ago. I mean, it's gotten better, but it's still there. I didn't validate it. I sent it out as Fred did this. Don't fall into that trap. I was at a conference just 2 weeks ago in Kansas City Developer Conference. When they were going through their intro stuff, I noticed on the board, if you look at this, they use ChatGPT to help them. This is the help desk at the bottom. It says, stop by the info desk downstairs near bracket location bracket. They did not validate their output. And they put it up on this screen. Yeah, sure, this was probably a couple thousand people, so it wasn't big, but they didn't validate their output. And then if you watch the ChatGPT 5 launch event live a few weeks ago, which I watched it, maybe some people in the crowd also watched it. If you looked at the graphs they presented, they don't make sense, and it actually makes it look like ChatGPT does not know what it's doing when it comes to graphs. I mean, if you look at this one here in the middle of the screen, it's trying to say 52.8 is higher than 69.1, which is somehow also higher than 30.8. Apparently, this was the draft version of the presentation, and the new one actually has the right information, or the bars are scaled correctly. But even people at OpenAI took the output from their own tool and just pasted it away. You get busy. I understand it. But you can't let being busy get in the way of you validating things, because at the end of the day, your name is on it. So in order to validate, there's an acronym. Love acronyms. STOP. 1, slow down. I like to, now ask myself some 3 questions whenever I feel rushed to do something. Does it have to be done? Yes or no? Okay. Does it have to be done by me? Yes or no? This helps with delegating. Then does it have to be done by me right now? Often the third one is no. It's okay. Sometimes I get excited about sending out insights, maybe for some data I'm still gathering, but then they change along the way. So I always have to hold back my own announcement monster, we'll say, to stop and slow down. Second thing under T, test the claim. When you're reviewing this thing, if something doesn't pass the smell test, look at it. If it references a resource, click on it, read that article. Going through this, I found many things that were not correct, or the AI had summarized something. One thing I found when AI searches the web, it sometimes pulls back metadata results and puts them in as factual, but then you go to the article and you can't find that exact text in the article. So test what's going on. Check other sources. If one tool says it does, if one tool says something happens one way, check other sources, see if it actually happens this way. Which is great. There's some questions I saw about paid tiers of various AI models. If one thing's telling you, oh yeah, you can do this in the free tier, and it doesn't work, check another source. I do pay for OpenAI and Miro, I think. The rest of these I use for free. Well, I will say I do get Perplexity Pro somehow with my Samsung phone. I got a year of it, so I'm not going to say no to that. It's been a great tool, so which has been great. So then check other sources, and the P, prove it before you use it. If you are having it write out like a workflow, step through that workflow yourself, because at the end of the day, your name is on that email. Your name is on that message. Your name is on that document. It's not Gemini. It's not Claude. It's not ChatGPT. It doesn't say don't avoid it. Just be skeptical. You may watch the news. I had one of the AIs create a newspaper. These are some of the let's say funny AI flubs recently. This one, this Taco Bell one right in the middle, which I love. Gemini actually created this whole image. Gemini's latest release, amazing. But Taco Bell, they started implementing AI in some of their drive-throughs, and they had to scale it back because apparently someone ordered 18,000 cups of water. True story. We had people for Air Canada. They were asking the chatbot for some stuff, and I think they got some free flights. And then Air Canada had said, no, that doesn't work that way. Well, they sued them and actually got the stuff taken care of it. fake paper, like, there was the Chicago Times had a summer reading list that came out earlier this year. There were hallucinated books in that list. Court cases, you've probably seen court cases where, I believe there's some in the US where some of the dockets that lawyers are filing had lists of hallucinated cases. Replit, they deleted a production database. And the funny thing about this one, for those of you who followed this, when the AI was asked the first time about it, it said that it didn't do it. And then upon further probing, it said it got flustered and ended up deleting it because it felt that was the best course of action. There's more to that story, but it's like that when it first asked, it lied. So bottom right, you see the pin in. AI isn't the problem. Blind trust is. All right. The fourth way you're using ChatGPT wrong. You're only using it on the surface. I worked with AI. I said, hey, how might we help people move beyond just the cursory rewrite? And that's where you got to realize AI it's a workbench. It's not just a stylist. And the pitfall is make it sound better. On the foundational level, which some people might be at, they're using it to help improve their meetings. Maybe you take some of information from a output of a transcript and say, hey, put these into action items. Great use. Using it on your backlog, a great thing within software development. Help me flesh out this backlog. Taking data and visualizing it. Or even if you're working with products, like, hey, help me create these different personas for my customers so I can run these new features by them. That's great foundational stuff. But let's take it up to the next level. And intermediate skills. This is where let's say when you're talking about metrics, help me explain this to a vice president, to a key stakeholder, to my grandma. It'll help you actually make sense of communicating metrics if you're talking about them within your teams. You can help it build you diagrams. Mermaid, if you heard about that, it's a open source language for generating diagrams. You can have your AI tool output some of these things into a diagram, or even use, like we mentioned earlier, Napkin AI. Story slicing. Many teams I've worked with have talked about how that you cannot slice the story any smaller. Ask an AI model, how might we? And then you validate that against what the team says. Hey, the AI, Copilot says we might be able to do it this way. And maybe it causes people to stop and think and say, oh, maybe that is a good approach we could take. Moving up our ladder, we get to more advanced skills. What if wizard, automation architect? What if wizard is great for asking open-ended questions like, what might happen if we go into this situation? Or help me create automation strategy around improving our deployments. And at the top, this new one, multimodal synthesizer. This is where you take multi-modes, and what I mean is like visuals, text, even some voice notes to synthesize into a single output. If you're not using these AI models with your voice to talk to them, I would start doing it if you're comfortable with it. Then you can free up your fingers so you don't have to type so much. And also, let's say you're out on a walk, watering the garden like I do. I'll sometimes talk to an AI, and when I got these new ideas bubbling around in my head, and I don't want to pull my phone out and get it all covered in water because I'm watering the garden and type stuff in. I can just talk to the model and it will remember what I'm talking about. So let's unlock your next badge. If you want to be a data wrangler, and this is written in a race format, tell it you're in an information extractor. It converts messy notes into structured data. Clearly identify the task owners and due dates. That input, that context is your block of meeting notes. And this is where I talked about earlier that JSON output, if you're not familiar with that, it's a structured output where you can say, have it go to these specific, break it down this specific way. So you don't have to spend cycles in your brain trying to decode what the output is. Diagrams, I talked about this with Mermaid. You can take notes from a meeting. Maybe you wrote them down on a piece of paper. Maybe you're working with a team that's trying to figure out how to work on their workflow. You can write down all of these notes and then ask AI to turn it into a workflow diagram. Try it out. Chances are it might be wrong the first time. iterate with it. What if wizard? What if a feature's delayed? Give me the 3 scenarios, the best case, the worst case, the most likely, for our risk trade-offs and mitigation options. Let's say you have a situation where you reset a password on your phone, but it doesn't work on the website, but it works in the reverse. And you have a fix ready to go out for this. You can ask it like, okay, what's going to happen if we have to delay this fix? And figure out those things that will help you have conversation with stakeholders around maybe why it's beneficial to delay the fix, or maybe what it means to actually accelerate getting this out and what the importance of it is. And lastly, the multimodal synthesizer. One of my things I like asking the models now is for executive summaries, because it does a really good job of building bullet points that I can pull out into either presentations, into Teams messages, Slack messages, etc. If you're not saying, give me an executive summary, try it out. Look at the different output. You can even, depending on your tool, ask it to include chart insights, like it says down here. Those are some great ways in order to level up your usage with a tool. All right, around in the corner. Evolution mindset. These are the last 2 ways that people are using ChatGPT and other AIs wrong. 1, they're locked in yesterday, and 2, giving exacting demands. So I mentioned earlier about how projects are now available to free ChatGPT users. Just have to be logged in and you can use a project. You don't have to pay any amount of money. You're limited to 5 file uploads as part of your project context, but you can still have those chats within a single folder, we'll say. I'll be open and transparent with you. When ChatGPT 5 launched a few weeks ago, I had this talk at another couple conferences already on the calendar. I got scared. I said, this is solving all these problems. And I started using it and realized it wasn't solving the problems. But ChatGPT wasn't the only one that updated in the past 90 days. These are all updates that have come in the past 90 days. Notebook LM improvements, some AI browsers from Dia and Comet. Dia, which is made by the browser company, which was acquired last night, I think, by Atlassian. It's an AI browser. Comet, an AI browser from Perplexity. Nano Banana, the Google, the Google Gemini image editor is amazing. You can take an image of you and say, how would I look in this other shirt? And it'll put a new shirt on you quickly. Cursor 1.0 came out in the last 90 days. These are just some of the things that happened in the last 90 days. So it's important to stay abreast of how things are changing. I mean, that one thing I mentioned earlier about the forked conversations, that came out today. You have to keep up with this stuff. Not to say make it your whole life to keep up with all these different tools, like Claude Opus 4.1, which was a huge release from Claude. Be aware of what's going on. If you start searching for AI tools, you're going to start getting results into your email, into your news feed. Let's talk about, you might not realize how fast things are changing. November 2022 really is when ChatGPT hit the mainstream. And it was about text conversations. In 2023, March 2023, it started being able to use and interpret visuals, where you can upload an image and it would be able to discern what that was and help have a conversation around it. That was just 2 years ago. A year later, that's when it started using multiple modes, where the image, voice, and text started being able to be kind of in the same place. But it was rudimentary. The way it worked behind the scenes is if you'd uploaded an image, it would send that image to an image reader, which would then turn into text to send back to the text model to have the conversation about. But it was able to do that when it wasn't able to do that before. In 2020, September, that's when voice started. So that was less than a year ago is when voice launched for ChatGPT, is when you could actually talk to it. It has its good days, it has its bad days. Earlier this year, they came out with agents where it could actually do computer controls. If you use agents or seen it, it actually simulates a computer, or emulates a computer as it's going through, like searching the web and clicking links. That was just this year. And then the most exciting thing with ChatGPT 5 was the unified creation that came out just last month. And what that means is it's able to take all these things and work it in one model. Where now the same model, instead of going out and talking to ask, like, interpret this image, interpret this voice to bring back into text and have it all do in text, it's able to natively understand all these different kind of inputs, which means its reaction time is faster, and what's reacting with is more accurate. So how do you evolve your use of ChatGPT or other AI models? Vibe code something. Try another tool. Take a picture of something. Ask it, build me a recipe. Take a picture of your fridge. Ask it, what can I make? Heck, I was I don't know whoever has kids here. One of my eighth grader, he's in concert orchestra, and he sent home a piece of paper with all the concert dates on it. Historically, I would have to take the paper to my computer, sit in front, write individual calendar events, save them to the calendar so the whole family could see it. I hated doing it, but I was the only one who would do it accurately. And so I did it. It was like this task I hated doing. Well, I was cooking dinner last night and I saw this piece of paper. I'm like, I'm gonna try something new. I took a picture of it with my phone, sent ChatGPT. I said, create me an ICS file based off the events in this on this piece of paper. It did it. So it had some extra events on there that I didn't need. And so I opened the ICS on my phone. I was able to click into each of the events I wanted to add, say, save this one, don't save that one. So if you have kids or whatever, you get a piece of paper that has dates on it and you want to put it on your calendar, ask AI to do it. I should try that out with Gemini. I wonder how good it would do. But yeah, there's always new use cases. Try things. You can try a thing where 5 different AI models ask the same question 5 different ways to help you go on that path. I asked each of these AI models about what they're good at. Claude says they're good at long-form reasoning. ChatGPT at creative content generation. Perplexity, gathering and synthesizing high-quality, up-to-date information. DeepSeek, it gave itself the full name. It's a DeepSeek V3. Long context conversations. And Gemini, understand human-like text. I haven't asked Gemini. I've only really experimented with Gemini the last 2 weeks to get to know it. But you see this here, but then, like you think, okay, you're great, Fred. I got all these information. I'm going to go out everywhere. How do I even start? Well, I vibe coded something. I asked 5 AI models to create tasks for the other models in a bingo card. And as part of giving me feedback, you're going to get these 5 bingo cards that give you ideas of things to try if you're not sure where to start. Maybe perplexity, the first column, 4th one down. I don't know what to do with that. I've never tried it. Gather 3 perspectives on WIP limits. Ask it, and it'll do research and tell you about it, so you'll learn about it. Claude, role play a difficult stakeholder. Napkin, cluster retro stickies into a theme. Okay, that one's fine. But I asked each of these models, and each of these models came up with a slightly different, extremely different board. And when you download, you'll see some funny things like DeepSeek, for some reason, it put the free space in the 4th column. It didn't put it in the center. I left it there because they're quirky. Perplexity put all of napkin AIs down one column. I didn't change it because I just asked them all the same question. I did do a little bit of tweaking along the way, and I did validate that all of these tasks on here, these things to improve your use, they're not code related. I try to say, hey, this is for an audience of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, so please don't ask it to analyze code bases. If you do that, great. But you'll get these 5 bingo cards that were generated by different AIs to try things. And it's a great way to, because sometimes you just don't know where to start. And our last one, I see Marcos come put his picture up. So there he is. We're rounding the corner. We're almost towards the end. There's a lot of me talking. Team up with the model. Unlearn exacting commands. You don't need to tell it what to do exactly all the time. When I was coming up with the 6 ways using ChatGPT wrong, I was stuck at 5. I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, I don't know what the 6th one should be. And he said to me, he's like, why don't you ask it? And his light went on. And this is kind of me. I have no idea what I'm doing sometimes. I'm that dog in the picture. What I will say is, if you notice, this is an old picture. If you look at the monitors, there's a Jira board that looks pretty modern and a Teams call. I asked Gemini, I said, take this classic meme and put a picture of a Jira board on one monitor and a Teams view on the other one. And it inputted in there And I said, it was very bright. It looked like it was clearly photoshopped in. I asked it to make it look a little more natural. It did an amazing job editing images. Nano Banano is awesome. So some collaboration moves. Stay curious, not certain. Ask before you assume. Explore. Learn as you go and embrace not knowing. This is how you might do it. I don't know how to team up with the model. ChatGPT, here's 6 ways you might start. These are 6 starter conversations you can put into it. Say, I don't know where to start, but here's what I'm thinking about. And it can help you explore some ideas. I saw some people early on about their use cases. They're doing some of these things. It's okay. You don't have to tell it, give me this exact thing, because sometimes you don't always know what you need. Help it explore ideas. Remember, to start the conversation, you'd start with a teammate. Don't script the answer, explore the invitation. So here we go. These are the 6 ways people are using ChatGPT wrong. 1, they're being too vague. 2, only using one tool. Hey, it's got ChatGPT in the name, but I used 7 other tools to build this. 3, forever stamping answers, just hitting copy, paste, go. 4, only asking for touch-ups. Just please make this look better. No, explore deeper. 5, locked in yesterday. You're using just text features when there's so much better. I mean, I told you about my ICS for my calendar. That was an amazing thing. I was like, wow, I just unlocked something new for me. I can be a little bit more lazy. And 6, exacting demands. This is where you're telling exactly what you want. And so the fixes are real context, assemble the right tools, be skeptical, validate, beyond the rewrite, iterate, involve, team up with the model. And if you notice on the bottom, if you follow the white rabbit, it's an acronym, RABBIT, which you'll get as part of your free thank you for giving me some feedback. All right. I don't know what this is, Meow. But the biggest pitfall, if you give random prompts, you get random outcomes. So what I'd like to ask you now, in order to get that, the copy of the 5 bingo cards and the presentation, give me some feedback. Scan this QR code from your phone or go to talk.ac/Fred Deichler and put SMOTU 0905. I put O's and zeros in the same code. I think that's a faux pas. But why don't you go ahead and do that? And while I'm going to turn over to Marco, he can bring up some questions.
September the 5th, 92 September the 5th. Oh, that's the code. Yeah, great. Thank you, Fred. That was amazing. Let me get straight to some questions because we've got 8 minutes left. The first question came from Armita. How far we can go with company-related subjects? The question she adds, my company has blocked ChatGPT to prevent confidential stuff. So how far can we go with company-related subjects with an AI?
I'll give you the consultant answer. It depends. And what it depends on is your company's adoption. So like the company I'm currently working for, they actually use Copilot, and it has enterprise level security in there. So Copilot's on-prem, so it will actually save all of our own stuff internally. It only queries the model. It doesn't write to the model, so nothing confidential goes out there. So your organization, they could look at all of these different ones that I'm aware of, like ChatGPT, Copilot. Which actually, the great thing, if you weren't aware, Copilot is ChatGPT behind the scenes. There's a little button if you have Copilot at work. You can click it on Office 365. Try ChatGPT 5. And then the thing I might do in your situation, audience member, ask. Just like a Scrum Master, if you're not sure, like ask legal. What are the steps to getting this approved? How might we do this? What benefit might it provide? No, so it depends, Marco. But if you do have to use it, you can strip out confidential information yourself. I would assume anything you put into any of these models, if you're not on a corporate one, joins the model's brain. Make that assumption.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer, Armita. I hope that answer is your question. If not, please do bounce on it in the text in the chat. Going to move on a bit quicker because we had 2 questions kind of like answered. Did I read that ChatGPT 5 now wins over Claude for coding? That's from Jamie.
It according to their demo, ChatGPT 5 with Cursor beat out Claude, but I'll say your mileage may vary. If you use Claude Code or any of the other ones, they can pull different models. And even though I'm a Scrum Master, I have a tool that I work on, and I use Cursor for my development because it's easier for me to tell, hey, I want to add a chart here than for me to try to figure it out. If I notice one of the models isn't giving me the output I'm looking for, I'll switch. I'll even say I did turn on Grok yesterday because apparently the new version of Grok has free queries with Cursor. So try different models. So I don't know. I don't know definitively which one is the best for coding, but try different models.
Okay, so that comes back to one of the points you raised in your presentation. That's great. Thank you. Rupesh asked a question as well that you touched on. Which one works best for when tailoring a resume?
So this is one where I've done multiple tools. I will say I really do like the way Claude writes language. It feels more natural. Um, the other thing is Gemini says it is. So I haven't tried Gemini 2.5 from Google AI Studio, so I would try it. And your results might vary. So I don't think there is one best one. Um, See what sounds best to you. And if you're unsure, ask a trusted friend. Like when I was working on a resume recently for my summary, I had an A/B test with my friend. I said, "Hey, which one sounds better for this role?" And they gave me feedback. So that's my human in the loop plug.
Okay, thank you. I hope that actually answers your question, Rupesh. Stephanie asked a question. What simple recommendations do you have to protect ourselves when using these tools? Right, that is data privacy, protecting our IP, our identity, that kind of stuff.
That's a tough one. I would just go back to what I said a few minutes ago, which assume everything you type into any of these joins their knowledge. I believe ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, maybe others, do have a temporary chat function, which says that they're not supposed to join the knowledge. Um, but I don't work there. I don't know what happens with those things. So it's kind of like that saying, don't say anything behind someone's back you wouldn't say to their face. Take that same kind of approach with these AI models, with knowing that whatever you put in there might come back later. And so it's your own personal comfort level.
I hope that actually answers your question, Stephanie. If you'd like to bounce it, please do in the chat because we'll have the chat recorded. And whatever's left over, we will be handing over to Fred so that he can see what questions are left over. And he can maybe bounce on some of those somewhere on LinkedIn, on on the meetup, wherever. Um, I think we have time for one more question, Fred.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
unless you can stay behind for a couple of extra minutes. Is
I
that
think
possible?
I got about 5 minutes I can stick behind if we do go a touch longer.
Okay, I'll head for the 5 minutes past the hour stop. Okay, so Slava has a question. Majority of these tools require paid subscription. What are the prices? Um, I wonder how many paid subscriptions will be justified to buy subscriptions for.
I mean, that comes down to
So,
your personal budgeting.
mm,
I personally do pay. I pay for OpenAI since it came out because it gives me the outputs I'm looking for, and the way I validate that is when my son's uses it. He's building a D&D campaign, which I think Joe had mentioned that in there. And actually, I built him a custom agent where, like, as he's building a campaign and creates documents, I update the documents on the agent, so then he can go build this entire ecosystem. He tells me he runs out of credits. He tells me he runs into, like basic limitations that I don't run into, and I use it more, so I know that it's valid for me. Generally, the models in the US, most of them are about $20 a month. Seems like it. Miro AI, I think it's $10 a month, and if you have a Miro subscription. I believe you run out a certain number of AI tokens for images after a bit. I actually ran into that token limit. But they're generally about $20 and it really depends. And if you're unsure if you need it, use the free model until it stops working for you.
Yeah, that rings a bell with Dave Westgarth that mentioned about that when he was talking about his project he was doing. That was a
I really
great
want to call
job.
it the Jose remind us this DeepSeek LLM, which is a free model on Olama, which is something you can run on your computer on the network. It's a great option. My computers, I've tried. It's very slow on the responses, but you can run these models like that are released publicly on your computer, and then there's little to no concern because you're doing it all locally.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Salah. With regards to subscriptions, it's not too expensive, but it's obviously a subscription per month. Stephanie has another question. What recommendations, now this might be a repeat question, what recommendations do you have for folks who work at companies that block the use of AI other than what they're approved, which is usually Microsoft Copilot? So we kind of like touched on this subject. Maybe it's the same subject for you.
I hated Microsoft Copilot before GPT-5 came out. Now I use it exclusively at work. I don't use my own personal ChatGPT, but every time I click try GPT-5. I hated it, but now I use it on a daily basis and I'm happy with it. One thing also I'll say about if you use Copilot at work, it will read your emails and your Teams messages and put it all together into a knowledge. So it references internal knowledge. So I would recommend if you've been hesitant about Copilot for Office 365, please use it. It's actually pretty darn good now.
Wow, that's a great insight for me because I've tried a little bit of Copilot, just doing like silly things with it and just seeing what it can do. Take this text and put up a parrot kind of theme, and that was it. And just give me some parroty kind of language and just see what it was capable of. I found it quite impressive. So that's good to know. Um, because certainly from a business point of view, a lot of us have Microsoft Copilot available. Um, what do we? Oh, we still got time for maybe two more questions. Another question from Karen. Uh, I'm not a developer, but if AI is hallucinating, now I'm not sure what that means, but she says links, what do developers need to do to confirm code? What do developers need to do to confirm code?
So hallucinating links is like a hallucinating knowledge, uh, where it's like saying an article exists that doesn't. Meow says run it. Absolutely. But the thing is, a developer, your name is on the commit. Um, so you're the one doing it regardless of what's happening. But run it. If it works, great. I mean, look at it. The great thing I like about Cursor, been using it, at the end of it, at the end, it tells me a summary of what it did. And if I wanted to, I could read. If I wanted to, I could read through it to understand what it did. But it explains itself along the way.
So it gives you the validation that you can use, gives you the text such that you can validate and get that feedback and then say to yourself, did that respond to what I wanted? And then
Yeah,
you can run it as well
yeah. You
and test it.
run it before you commit it. I mean, have tests in your code. That's another great idea.
Oh, can't you just code and never test?
Yes, you can. You shouldn't.
William has a question. How are we doing for time? Yes, I think this will be the last question.
Yeah.
William has a question for today. And like I say, we'll grab all the text, we'll send it to you, and you'll have maybe a few questions extra to actually answer and share back on the meetup would be a useful place in the comments. Um, do you have any initial prompts to set the tone for each session, like examine all prompts and provide a better option to output better results as a prompt? Examine all prompts and provide a better output, a
I
better
mean, I get
option to output better results.
I mean, that's where I get into like the sixth way is partner with the model with team up, or just ask it. As far as me, sometimes I'm lazy. I just start typing a question, and I have to remind myself to at least put a role in there, which to basically to limit the model's knowledge set, so it could actually increase its chance of getting to my answer better. But once again, it depends. And like looking through the content, yeah, Jack said ask LLM to write better prompts. That's a great one. There's also extensions you can get for Chrome and Edge, where you can basically save all your prompts and just have them readily available. Like different people with different like text documents with prompt libraries. But that's that 6-1. Team up with model. Ask it. And
Okay,
the last one I'll leave right at the bit. If you get a response that you like, ask it for the prompt that would get that response quicker and save it.
that's an amazing tip. How can I get to that response? So that's all about partnering with the artificial intelligence. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you, Fred. Thank you for joining Scrum Master of the Universe. Thank you for so much for bringing all this content and this amazing subject to our audience. And maybe you
Thank
have a
you.
last word to say before I finalize and close.
The thing I tell Scrum Masters and coaches, regardless of what they're doing, always be curious. Get out there, be curious.
Yeah, and please do give Fred some feedback on the Talker Doc. Okay, SMUTU 0909005, September the 5th. And don't forget to give us feedback. I'd like to thank our community who joined today. Promptly, everybody was here. I think we peaked at about 85 people, which is wow. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Don't forget, network, send your links to LinkedIn. Please don't. We value community, connection, and collaboration. And thank you, Jamie, for supporting me whilst I was
Sure.
hosting.
Thank you for hosting, Marco. We appreciate you. And again, Fred, thanks again. We always love having you here and look forward to the next talk.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, audience. It was great to see y'all.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.